Welcome, Salem Township Planning Commission, December 17th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we started at 7:30 on the dot.
If I may take attendance,
Yes, please.
Bart John, absent.
Absent, excused.
Darrell Lewandowski.
Here.
TJ McLaughlin.
Here.
Pam Malone.
Here.
Bruce Reed. Here. Robert Rizzo.
Here.
Dan Gary.
Here.
Gary. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted for December 17th, 2018.
Second it.
All those in favor of approving the agenda as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes. Number 5, public comment. No comments?
I understand this meeting was called to let us know that Consumer Power wants to put fences.
I'm sorry, could you state your name, please?
My name's Carolyn Diaz. I live in Salem Township. I was called by, I forgot the fellow's name now. He works for Consumer Power. And he said the meeting would be concerning putting fences around the gas well areas. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's all I know.
Okay. Thank you. And did you say, Caroline, your last name was Limbaz?
Gambaz.
Cam?
G-E-M.
Okay, I'm sorry.
B-A-C-Z. Gambaz.
Okay. Okay. Number 6, new business items. Consumers Energy Site Plan Review 18-005. Paul, did you want to
Sure.
start, please?
Quickly bring you up to speed here. This is the Consumers Energy site on 8 Mile between Curry and Chubb Road. They have an existing facility at this location, and they're looking to put fencing around it. The area where the fence would go is approximately 3.5 acres. The total site is 43 acres. So the location of the equipment is kind of centrally located towards the front, but it's about 500 feet off of the 8 Mile Road, so it's set a ways back. Typically, a fence review, while on a commercial or a utility site like this, would require site plan submittal as opposed to just a fence permit like we would do for a residential site. It would typically be an administrative review. So what they're asking for is a 7-foot fence, where the ordinance only allows for 6. But the ordinance does give the planning commission the ability to look at the circumstances and determine whether or not the extra height is needed for safety purposes. In addition, they're asking to put barbed wire on top of the 7-foot tall fence. Again, prohibited by the ordinance unless it's surrounding active farmland, unless the planning commission finds that it's necessary for public safety. And so that's essentially why this is in front of you tonight. As I said, otherwise it would be an administrative review, but because of these 2 deviations that they're looking for from the requirements of the ordinance, the applicants have come before you tonight to hopefully demonstrate in their favor that there is a safety issue requiring these additional height as well as the barbed wire. There's some information in your packet, including the design of the fence, as well as the TSA's guidelines for safety, and one of the guidelines specifically indicates 7 feet with barbed wire, and so I think I called that out in my report. I'm sure the applicants can talk a little bit more about the need for this. The one other thing that I would bring to your attention is that there are some residents nearby, and they have indicated on their site plan where they would put in some additional screening in the form of evergreens. So I would encourage you to look at what they're proposing and make a determination if that's appropriate or not. I know they want to keep some clear zone right up to the fence, but along the property line seems like an appropriate place to do that screening. That's what they're proposing at this time.
How does this fit in with other areas, Paul?
In terms of,
Yeah, the fencing, you know. In other words, is this kind of a traditional 7-foot barbed wire, or is that the application for other areas?
you know, I haven't seen this particular application before. Oftentimes these things are just out in the open. This one obviously has been out in the open for some time. It's my understanding, and again, I think the applicant can speak to this, but they're being pushed by their company for bringing everything up to a current state.
And you mentioned safety factor. There's some danger if kids get in there or whatever.
I
We'll
don't
let
know
them tell, 'cause it's
the
only from the
details
TSA.
on the, you know, what they're attempting to protect, either people from getting in or for the people who might get in. Again, I think the applicant can speak to that.
Okay.
Robert?
Yeah, I had a question for the consumer power
Should we
representative.
let them speak?
Yeah.
And then, so they can explain, because I'm sure a lot of this is coming from the TSA, correct? It's pretty standard. So if one of you want to stand up and state your case.
Be happy to. Yes, in terms of technical review. Yeah, good evening, I'm Brett Springay, I'm the project manager for the fence improvement that we're trying to do. TSA, Transportation Security Administration, is about safety and security of sensitive sites, so it's pretty standard in our company. We've already done another 2 similar installations in Lyon Township on this same lines, and we want to continue with that requirement. We've already done improvements in putting up cameras on the site, and so we're continuing with that plan.
So is the directive coming from the company, or is it coming from the TSA?
Both
Both.
from 3 different places, really. From TSA, it's a recommendation from our security department. The standard fence is 7-foot with barbed wire on it. And also, we have a well protection program that we're doing internally with the gas storage group. And they have looked at it from an engineering perspective and looked at the wells, deliverability, et cetera, and made evaluation that the fence is appropriate.
So my name is Stephanie Royal. I'm the Community Affairs Manager with Consumers Energy. And just adding on to what Brett said, because I know there was a question whether it was us or was keeping others off the property. I would say it's both. I think it's protecting the infrastructure within the property, and it's also making sure that it is safe, keeping residents and others off the private property. They might see it as a place because it's more open, that they could ride their ATVs, or they could ride their bikes, what have you, and it's keeping those off for the safety of them and also for the safety of the infrastructure.
And we've had those instances on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, I've got a question for Paul and the representatives. The fence is going around a underground well storage. And typically you see fences with barbed wire when you're around substations that have copper bus bar and brass switches and copper grounding. And was wondering, if somebody's going to break into your yard, they're going to cut your chain link fence. I don't think they're going to jump over the fence. But with that in mind, Paul, if somebody got hung up on that barbed wire, hopping that fence, what is the liability as far as us okaying the barbed wire?
I don't think we would have liability as a township if we approved it. This is their facility, it's their property. They would be responsible for the safety of the site.
Okay, and another question was there's only one real neighbor that's really close to that fenced-in area, right?
So,
I reached out to all three neighbors, Mr. Stamps on the west side,
Again, Dan?
Razes that are up the hill, at the top
Yeah,
of the
we're
hill,
closer to 8 Mile.
closer to 8 Mile, and I reached out to one of the Preyas sisters on the east side.
So they're good with the barbed wire and they're happy with the pine tree screening?
They're happy with the pine tree screening. Mr. Stamps made a number of requests. He was not happy with the barbed wire. He objected to the barbed wire. He made a request to paint it or have it black. He also made a request to grade the site further to lower the fence and the screening mainly. And he objected to the barbed wire.
Would it be,
I did make an accommodation. I did try to take into consideration some of the sight lines out there. I put an angle, you see an angle on the fence. I tried to line it up to minimize the impact from his house. Mostly, a lot of it is screened from his pole barn there on the back southeast corner of his property.
What about the pine trees? How high or what size?
the
Well,
6 foot?
there were some other ones that were planted out there. We're very happy to have the ones planted at the roadway that will help grow up. I think they all started at 6 foot, and then there were some that were down the hedge road to the west side. We plan to continue to farm it with tenant farmers, so a lot of the times you don't see it in summer because the corn is up high in front.
Okay.
Would it be unreasonable to have, what's the fence that's going up?
We'd like to put up a standard utility fence, a galvanized fence, 7 foot barbed wire, it'll have a wire at the bottom to prevent it from being pushed open. Your standard chain link fence. We'll have several gates in it. We'll have a couple of probably 3 roller gates. They'll all be manual, they won't be any motorized, but just to make them easier to move out of the way in the snow.
Would it be unreasonable to have a black fence to either make it look a little more nice, or, the trees, could they be a little bit higher to kind of camouflage with it?
Well, on the black fence, I did just.
When you go by 8 Mile, you can just see everything. I mean, trees, you're just looking right over them, I think, because the road's high. So they're really not screening anything.
Well, let me address the black fence. It definitely increases our cost, which we roll back to the customer base. It's really tens of thousands of dollars, but in the big scheme of things, it's not a huge expense. But I look at it more for a maintenance expense. You either vinyl coat it or paint it, and it looks good when you start, but 10, 15 years down the road, we need to continue to maintain it. It'll flake off and require additional expense after that. I know that the galvanized fence will have a longer life with the least amount of maintenance.
The paint wouldn't go over the galvanized?
No, it's a vinyl
Oh,
coated.
Oh, it's
There's a
vinyl
couple
coated.
different
Oh,
ways.
okay.
Vinyl coated,
Okay.
but it's a plastic coating
Okay.
that eventually, I checked with the fence guy, 15, 18 years, it starts to erode away. The trees, I don't know what kind of a height are you thinking?
I was thinking taller than 6 foot, but
Okay.
I guess I'm just kind of thinking of to screen it.
But that's the initial.
That's the
You're just
initial.
talking the initial plant. It
Yeah.
depends on the
Yeah, it
species
depends on
of
the
tree,
species of
how
it.
fast they grow.
I guess what I'm,
How,
right,
But
but my
area they're
question
gonna
is,
cover.
if we're going to, because we run into this all the time,
Traditionally what they put in.
if we're gonna screen it,
That's considered, because they grow pretty fast after 6.
excuse me, if we're gonna screen it, I'm hoping it would be, we shouldn't, I hope we don't have to screen, I don't wanna, I personally wouldn't like to see a screen that takes 10 years to have to look at it, I think for the neighbor's sake and whatnot, I think if we're gonna screen it, And I know we do need to be reasonable with the amount of, time, but screen it a little bit better than,
Well, I did put in 12 trees, just to pick that. I was gonna put in a couple rows, I was gonna offset them.
okay.
There'd probably be 10-foot spacing and offset a second row. I think the worst angle is from his house past his pole barn, down the angle of the
Are you putting in
Plant
spruces?
that.
You putting in spruces?
yeah, I'll put in,
Because they'll go 20, 25 to almost 30 feet.
I'm not a tree expert, but I'll,
So if you start them off at 6 feet, they can grow 2 to 3 feet once they're established
And
a
they're-
year.
Yeah,
2 to
they
3 feet,
grow
okay.
fast.
Yeah.
Not the
Once
first
they're at
year,
6
but the
feet,
second
below
year.
6 feet, they don't, but at 6 foot,
Yeah.
it does grow fast.
I can ask the landscaper for the fastest growing.
Yeah. Well, I just think because, people
Sure.
live out in our agricultural area, and then to have, it's just so disappointing. I mean, this is where they live. So and consumers are not to put a huge cost, because I know we're all gonna pay for it one way or another. But it would be, with a few extra trees to kind of make the neighbors happy and make sure that you select a kind that will truly screen and do what they're supposed to. I mean, we're asking us to,
Sure.
yeah.
So I noticed on the drawing, they indicate 2 trees on the front end of the,
Mr. Stamps brought up that there were a couple that had died from the previous, so I said I would replace those 2.
well, so I see the bulk of the trees being placed in the back corner of the site. It looks like their house is in front of the barn, so I would think that, where you angled the fence to diminish the view, it would be more important to put additional trees up in this area as opposed to this area.
Okay, well, up on that area, those
You say it.
Those 2 that Paul are talking about, there is a row of pine trees coming down the west side,
There's an existing row.
existing row, and these 2 that died were on the tail end of it, so
So when you say on the west side, you mean on his property?
they're actually on our property.
Okay. So that was my question. I was wondering why they're only showing a couple in front of the barn, but it sounds like there's an existing row of trees. And those are evergreens as well?
Yes.
Hopefully you don't use those Austrian pines, you use a nice spruce. Because the Austrian pines, they get that blade in them and they're not real thick. Spruces would be nice.
Spruce trees are really slow growing now.
Oh, they get going. Spruces, with Colorado spruce, it gets going pretty quickly.
Once it hits 6 foot, that's when it takes off.
I'm no tree expert, and I'm not gonna tell you what kind of trees you put in there. But the point being is, I understand from the safety perspective what you're trying to accomplish. So we are here to balance, to ensure that screening actually screens, because it gets a little frustrating. These people live out in this beautiful open land, and they have to look at that when we know if the companies could put in some trees that truly do what they say to help those people. So if you could work with a landscaper to ensure that, we're not gonna have like half dead, because it's just, we want it to look nice. Yeah,
Sure.
for the neighbors.
Sure.
And for the rest of us, and we all travel down that road 100 times a day. Bruce?
With all due respect, I realize the equipment that you're putting the fence around isn't all that attractive either, though. So-
No.
So we are actually, you and if we approve it, helping a little bit to make a little better view, but as indicated before, you can, because it's set so low, almost everybody looks over any of the
Right.
screening into it anyway. So the only question I really have predominantly is, just to ask them, is there anything that indicates a 6-foot fence with barbed wire or a 7-foot fence without barbed wire is going to do any more to keep people in or out of that area, going over the 2 criteria that we have, or eliminating one of the 2, either eliminate the barbed wire or eliminate the height? I'm going to ask particularly the barbed wire. It seems to be one that's most institutional looking.
Well,
Looks more like a jail.
I would be very happy if it was still a chain link fence, but higher, and you have a little bit of latitude in the security department on the barbed wire.
So the screen link fence allows, especially the cameras out there, it allows the security control center to look in, so they can look outside and inside, and that allows, a better view, which then helps with the security of the perimeter and the security of anyone is to try and.
Well, I'm fine with the chain link because it does tend to, visually it blends in, you look right through it, and it's not real objectionable. I mean, it's not decorative, but it's not objectionable either. Question is if we eliminate the barbed wire, if you stay with the 7 foot, now it's not, it's not easily climbed over and eliminate the barbed wire or lower it to 6 foot with barbed wire. I'm just trying to say, you've got two things that are off. Is there any, with your company and your risk management people, any statistics that show, well, this helps out more than that in terms of keeping somebody safe?
The preference is definitely for the barbed wire. I will say that.
Do people break in the fences? I mean, are they trying to climb
We have
over?
people that come onto the property. We have people that drive around the gates. We have,
What's the risks? What's the dangers? What are the dangers? When people get in there other than driving?
well, we have a high-pressure gas system there. This is not something that feeds your house. This is
Right.
a storage field and operating pressure of well over 1,000 psi. So it's important stuff.
Right.
I mean, it's handled safely. It meets American Petroleum specifications, and we just don't want people
Right.
mischievous things going on.
I just think it's important for you guys to clarify what the issues and what the risks are, so that everybody knows, because when there are vacuums, the information,
Yes.
Well,
it tends to cause some fear. So I think if we know what you're doing and exactly why, it's helpful.
And it's also helpful, I have to say, if everyone in the community knows what's there and know what important infrastructure is there and the risks. And if they see anyone there, that they do call their local police or our security control center to let us know too. Because you see something, say something, goes a lot further than just, what we hear about for other things.
we appreciate Mr. Stamps. He does look out for the property and notices when people are there, so.
Wouldn't it be wise to have a newspaper article about this so that the community knows about it?
Well, from a safety, security, we don't necessarily want to draw a lot of attention to the site, but it is,
I think the standard procedure is to, when there are issues like this, from what we see in the township, is they notify the residents directly, those people that are directly
Directly affected.
impacted.
Pam was talking about safety issues, just a quick question. On your security system, is it a motion activated system? So if someone's around there, it goes to a central station and somebody made aware of
it
someone's
is
there?
centrally monitored.
Okay,
It is centrally
all right,
monitored.
good.
Yes.
But not motion.
I don't know. I don't know exactly how the alarms work.
Please don't mess it
No, not at time.
Well, if you've got wells of that high pressure, you don't want someone coming in. You want to know right away when someone
Right,
comes in that
exactly.
yard.
And
I
that's
just wonder if you have that
monitored
capability.
24/7.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and there's security controls that are 24/7 monitored.
Okay.
Just like all the sites are.
So the black is out, and so now we're to the 7.
Bruce is like,
Yeah.
7 versus 6.
I was just asking a question, again, I'm more in favor of safety, but if there's no real advantage to one, going that high, again, you're only gonna keep so many people out of there. It's, I'm assuming meant to keep the people that might
It's a
think that it's okay to be there out, but if someone wants in there, you're not stopping with that fence. I mean,
So ideally, we.
something in my back pocket can clip that barbed wire,
Right.
just like that.
So, which our security center would see, but ideally, we would like to stick with the TSA
Sure.
and our internal security rules, and so it's all the same. Keep with-
Consistency.
Yeah.
if I have no problem with the galvanized fence, or the 7 foot. I understand, to me, the way it is now, I think with the fence around it and screening would be a lot, it'd be better to look at from the road, from, what is it, 500 feet off the road, or is it more?
Yeah, it's about to be clear, the screening we're talking about is only along the neighboring property.
It's not across the front, it's just down both sides.
Just down one side.
So across the front is the cornrows.
Oh, yes.
The farming.
Yes. But I don't have a problem with the galvanized fence. It's way out there. It's nothing that, driving down 8 Mile, and, oh, look at that ugly looking galvanized fence. Or am I gonna say, geez, that black fence is what it should always be everywhere. But to me, the galvanized, I mean, if TSA and the federal government tells you guys, gives you a standard, then you gotta go with what they tell you. It's nice that if we can have some compromise, but I think between the federal government and TSA, that's what you gotta go by. And to me, the galvanized fence, 7 foot tall, is fine. Iffy on the barbed wire, but I can see more security. To me, it don't look like a prison because you really can't see that close to, you're not that close on 8 Mile Road.
It's just a 3-strand barbed wire at a 45-degree angle. It's not razor wire like you see in a prison. But
It's just strung out straight.
strung out straight, yes.
Your security standards and the TSA, they don't want the whole thing screened, do they?
No, we
There
want
needs to
to-
be some
No,
open
we want to be able to
areas.
look in
Yeah.
and look and
I
be
was
able to
reading
look
on
out.
that, yes.
We
Yeah.
want a 10-foot clearance in front, so we intend to
Yeah.
trim any, mow the lawn, cut the tree limbs, anything within 10 feet of
That's
the
what I
fence.
thought, okay.
So that's why I made the buffer, I put a buffer around the outside of at least 25-foot setback, so that there would be some room for screening.
Yeah.
Screening on
It is what it is.
on the side or the front?
The neighbor's side, where the neighbors are.
Well, definitely the neighbor's side, because they're the ones that have to look at it every day.
Right.
If you want to put it in front, I don't have a problem with that either.
You can't, you know, they have.
From 500. No, that's fine. No, that's fine. Anyone else have any questions?
I'm assuming since it's TSA that this is like also an anti-terrorism type of infrastructure protection?
It's critical infrastructure. It's very critical infrastructure.
So I don't think 7 feet is gonna, one more foot is gonna be noticed 500 feet away. And if the barbed wire is angled, then you're only really visually gonna see like 6 inches of it, right?
It's about a foot.
Stan, anything?
If this is the standard procedure and everything, I don't see a big problem with it myself. I start trying to deviate all over and then we start
Yeah.
running into all kinds of problems. And this is tried and true, and so from my vote, I think we just go ahead with what we're
There is another site. ITC has a site on Joy Road in Tower, in the township, south end of the township. It's the same thing as galvanized fence with barbed wire.
The barbed wire, though, you're talking about single strand, aren't you? Not like
Yeah.
It's 3 strands, isn't it?
That's 3 strands.
It's 3 strands.
Three
Yeah, well,
strands,
that's what I
three
meant, the
strands.
straight, that
Not the-
isn't, that looks more normal
The
than
spiral.
Right.
this spiral razor wire or something, that's what so.
No.
Yeah, so I don't see any problem with any of that, I mean, it's a standard,
I think I saw a site on 9 Mile with gas wells, and I think they had straight.
Straight barbed wire.
As I recall, going into South Line.
This is what it looks like.
so.
I think.
It just sounds bad when I say barbed wire.
Yeah, because you think the worst.
Yeah, it's not, that's what I was
Mostly
trying, my
gonna give
point
this to you,
was,
just
right.
because this is our contact
Three
information.
strands.
Yeah,
It's always
yeah.
we have, and they have it, and this information.
That's what typical.
Thank you.
Ms. Gambitz, did you just, since we're in the middle of this and we're such a small meeting, did you have any other questions or concerns that you wanted to ask? I mean, you're the only one here, so we appreciate you showing up. I think it's important to, like, we're in the thick of this.
I don't know that much about any of it, but I do remember when we first moved in the 90s, they started the gas wells around 95 or something like that. Maybe it was already in there. But we had some hissing that we heard from the pressure, and that gets taken care of, and they patrol it. I don't have any problem with it.
Good.
Now, my husband knows more about infrastructure and buildings and all that kind of things, but he's pretty much disabled, so he couldn't come anyway. But
Oh, well, we're glad you're
I
here,
said,
because it's
I'll-
important to
I'll
show up
go.
at these
I've-
things
you know, I've never
before
been to
it's
one,
done.
so I'll go and see what they have to say.
Thank you.
Great, yeah, thank you. Okay. Then we'll
Yeah.
stamp the motion. Resolution, resolution, that's what we're gonna have. Yep, but since we don't, you're on it.
I'd like to make a motion that, what I'm trying to figure out is how I describe it. How I describe the site. I mean, the site plan review 18-005, or how do I describe it?
Yeah, I would suggest that you reference the site plan review 18-005
Okay,
and just
yeah.
indicate that the planning commission finds that the additional height and barbed wire is acceptable for
Okay. Right.
safety purposes.
That's what I just, okay. Okay, make a motion that we approve the consumer energy site plan review -18-005 with the additional recommendation that we also approve the 7-foot fence along with the barbed wire top on it, 3-strand barbed wire.
And the screening.
And the screening on the neighbors, side of the neighbors.
I second it.
We stay in complete screening for the neighbors there, so.
Complete screening?
Well, I mean, the way you described it as offset, at least 6 foot, and decent trees.
Yes.
Okay. Just see where it grows.
We're all gonna learn a lot about trees now.
Yeah, I know. Okay, all those in favor of approving the motion of the site plan 18-005, to approve the site plan 18-005, with,
Barbed wire.
to approve the
3-strand barbed wire.
7, what's that?
7-foot fence was the
7-foot,
3-strand
Yes,
barbed
and-
wire top.
As detailed.
As detailed,
Yeah.
as discussed.
I think the review covers it all.
I think it does too. And I think everybody's on the same page, so. All those in favor, let's do, we need to finish that, let me start all over. A motion to approve site plan 18-005, to approve the site plan as submitted in regard to the 7-foot fence with the 3-strand barbed wire and screening for the neighbors. So we'll do a
Smells fine.
Oh, okay.
But you could do a roll call.
Let's do a roll call.
Okay, no problem. Okay. Mr. Lewandowski.
Yes.
TJ LeBlanc.
Yes.
Pam Law.
Yes.
Bruce Reed, yes. Robert Rizzo.
Yes.
And Dan?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you have our contact information if you need anything or have any questions.
And all right. Okay,
This is our laydown.
new business items, 6B calendar for 2019.
I checked all the dates on the calendar and they're all fine except for, for the first two are holiday. That pushes us out one extra week. President's Day and, I can't think, what's the other? Martin Luther King Day.
So, we go to the 28th, and then February is always on too, so that's the 25th. Holidays in there?
Everything else seems to be okay.
Okay. Nice. Okay. Discussion?
We also added a qualifier at the bottom to just make everyone aware about our kind of submittal deadline requirements, and so that it's in black and white. Because some folks think that just by applying before a meeting, it qualifies them to be on the meeting, but we put in 4-week minimum submittal time, and then also indicating that we would notify an applicant when we've determined that they qualify.
Okay.
Not just by the time submittal, but by having all their information.
Ah,
Yes.
okay. No
Good.
last minute
Good.
items.
Or incomplete.
Okay. Any discussion on any of this?
Your motion?
I
I move that we accept the meeting dates as detailed on the sheet here.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the 2019 regular meeting schedule as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None? Old business items, none. Reports of commissioners and correspondence. 8A, Board of Trustee.
Master plan is now being reviewed, 63-day. Look at it again, see if there's anything that needs to be corrected.
Take a while to digest it all.
So considering I said it took us like 4 years to do it, 63 days is nothing. Any updates from your meeting on Tuesday? New fire truck?
Money.
Spent a lot of
Paving a
money.
road.
Paving a road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
New fire truck and paving Shell Road.
Right,
And
And
5 mile.
5
and culvert repair,
where's that?
culvert repair.
The one that's never
Dixboro
been-
between,
Between 7 and 8.
6 and 7 Mile Road, that failed, but it's mainly gonna be paid for by the road commission. Good, we pick up a part in Northfield Township.
TJ, what about the 6 Mile Road? Wasn't that approved for a percentage of redoing 6 through the hamlet? That wasn't, what didn't it?
That wasn't enough. It was Chug Road and it was 5 Mile.
Well, what meeting was I at then? They talked about 6 Mile Road and the county said they weren't gonna do anything unless the township participated, so they agreed to do part of it, I thought. They would submit some money towards it. Well, it must have been at a different meeting.
Resurfacing the 6 mile.
Right.
Didn't
Right.
didn't
That
that
was
just
done.
happen a year ago?
Yeah,
I think
last year.
They're talking about the stretch from Chubb to Napier, possibly.
Talking about widening it, but then the Washtenaw County said no way.
They're not participating at this time.
Of course not.
Okay, because I know there was a discussion on a percentage.
Well,
What
the
they were-
percentage was on Chubb Road. They
That
were
was for
talking-
the township contributing towards the cost of paving instead of putting it all on the property owners, for the township to cover part of the cost for paving
Right.
5 mile each other.
Approximately
Yeah, that
one-third, we
percentage.
would
Okay.
assume
All right.
approximately one-third.
Yeah, wrong road.
Chuck Road.
Right, yes.
Chuck Road instead of 6.
Each other, correct.
Okay. ZBA,
No meetings.
land preservation, conservation,
Yes, okay, so the property at Curtis and Brookville, we sat down with the Land Conservancy group, Legacy Land Conservancy, and we're working towards getting a driveway in there and some parking there so they can begin working on some trails and things of that nature. So we're kind of working together jointly to get that progressing along, so hopefully that may be in the spring, later in the spring, early summer, that can be opened up to the public. We're hoping to get a driveway off of Brookville, but it's going to require us to try and get up, so we don't have to cut into the trees we're preserving. We want to get a driveway as close as possible to Curtis. So it's going to require, hopefully we can get a variance from the road commission for that. And then there was also some discussion about on our Salem Farm Preserve about trying to improve the stewardship of the land by using outside agency, a farm agency, to not only look at the farming practices, but also that we're doing, see that we're keeping up with good farming practices, but also it's split into 2 divisions, one for the farming side and one for the trees, wetland area. And we're looking to get that help as well to show that we're, again, being good stewards of the land.
Didn't the landfill agree to help with the trails and stuff?
They've been helping with the mowing of the trails currently and are very much interested in continuing to help us with what goes on. And hopefully we'll have an opportunity. I believe the current land lease expires after next year, so the next time we go to renew, we'll have an opportunity to add some trails because they won't interfere, we'll adjust the lease requirements to allow us to put a few more trails in there. So right now, we're trying to respect the existing lease contract.
Also, the Curtis and Brookview property, is it Washington County that's going to maintain a park there?
It all falls under the ownership is legally the Legacy Land Conservancy, but they are working closely with the Washington County Parks and Rec as far as working on that. So they have a good working relationship. There's also some other contributors that are more like silent contributors as far as the original purchase, but the active people are going to be Salem Township to help get the roads in and a little bit of clearing done, so they have a little bit of responsibility there. And
With the maintenance of it and
the
everything.
design and the maintenance is going to be through the Legacy and the Washington County Parks.
Yeah, I thought that was really great for the township.
Mhm.
I thought that was really
Yep,
great.
yep. And it's close enough to the other Creekshead Preserve that's literally a short walking distance between the two. And there's enough shoulder on the road where it can almost be done somewhat safely. And a lot of our roads have such short shoulders and ditches that are very deep, but I think there's enough shoulder space that someone could actually park at one and walk to the other.
okay, thank you.
Pam, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Land preservation. Across the street directly across the street from my driveway is the Potawatomi Preserve, which is, nothing can be built on it. It was donated by the Carrickers. And why are you guys putting in parking and they don't have to? What's the difference between the preserve on, they're right directly across the street from our driveway, and they'll park on both sides of the driveway across the street, especially when it's a nice sunny Saturday, and I can't, in fact, I mentioned it to Dan, why isn't somebody asking them to, they have that cutout where it looks like it could be a driveway, why don't they go in there, clear the tree, some of them small trees, and make a parking area? Get the cars off the road, instead of me having to itch out of the driveway to get out on Curtis. And and then when you were saying about the parking, I says, that's odd, why is one doing it and the other one don't have to?
I honestly
Doesn't that fall under that preservation land?
It does. You're talking about the creek there or not?
Well, I've always referred to it as the Potawatomi Preserve. The land preservation is right across from our driveway, 6720 Curtis Road. It's not Spring Creek.
We can certainly look into who owns the easement there and what the easement says. When it was established, it may say, typically conservation easements have very specific language about what can and can't be done on the land. And oftentimes they say, limited, do some trails or maybe some limited structures that facilitate use of the land. But depending on what the language says, might dictate whether or not you could or could not do that.
It's strictly a wooded area. I think, I don't know, it's just 40 or 80 acres there. But
But there are people who are obviously accessing it, right?
oh yeah, they have what do they call it, a scavenger hunt. They have stuff out in the woods placed, and you go
Geocaching.
you go there and collect all that stuff, and whatever. And well, that's all well and good. I walked through there just to see, and they got some bridges across some running water in there, streams in that. But I don't know. Okay. Oh, sorry, Dan.
Well, we can look.
We were making a little joke here, sorry.
We can
No.
look into it.
Okay, I'd appreciate it.
See something, say something. Okay,
Pam says we were gonna have a fast meeting, she says it's taking longer than what we thought.
that's okay, we need to be thorough. Get it out. Okay, chairperson, me. I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, safe holidays. I want to thank our regulars, Bonnie and Linda, for continually being here every single month and doing the recording. They look like they're not paying attention, but we know they are.
Pam?
Yes.
Somebody asked me one time why I keep this up here and it doesn't look like I'm paying attention. And I said, if you didn't have something to kind of keep me attracted to it,
You'd be
you
sleeping?
wouldn't like me because I would be at everything all the time.
Oh, goodness. All right, well, you keep
So,
watching
yeah,
your
we look like
Netflix,
we're
or
multitasking.
just to make sure it's appropriate back there, ladies. So no, but I do mean it. I appreciate you guys being here. You added that other extra element. The more, I want to say the more the merrier, but the more we have, the more perspectives, the more thorough we can be, the better decisions we can make as a group. Okay. Zoning administrator's report.
I don't know if I can follow that. I don't really have anything. It was a pretty slow month. There were a couple of old marks.
Nothing interesting?
Nothing interesting.
All right. I love casual meetings. Okay, number 9, approval of minutes, October 15th.
I make a motion to approve the planning commission meeting of October 15, 2008, as submitted.
I'll second it.
All those in favor of approving the October 15, 2018 minutes as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. 10, public comment. Diane, do you have anything to say?
No, thank you, Merry Christmas.
Best public comment session we've had in a long time. Okay, number 11, adjournment at 8:18. Thank you. All right. So my mom sent a box of presents from Florida. I can't even tell you about the text messages I got in the last 52 minutes. Oh.
Diane sent some cookies to my son out in California, he got them in 2 weeks.